Choosing the name for your small business is not a little thing you just do randomly one day. It's actually a strategic move for your business. You can't just go all willy-nilly, as they say, just randomly picking something, because it might come back and bite you in the butt. It has to be a name that is good for you and your business. Okay, this is how I'm gonna break down today's video. First, I'm gonna tell you the types of names that there are. Yes, there are different types of names. That's gonna get your brain kind of like moving, right? And get the gears going. Then I'm gonna show you how to properly brain dump, because this is a very important step in picking your name. I'm gonna throw in some tools here and there that can help you kind of achieve this goal of creating your new name. Then at the end, I'm gonna give you 5 tips really quickly to consider while you're creating this new name. Tip number 5 is my favorite, and it's not usually talked about, so make sure you stick around for that one. Hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? My name is Maricruz. I'm an engineer, entrepreneur, and environmentalist, but in this channel, I am your small business coach. Okay, so there are 3 types of names that I want you to focus on, not to overwhelm ourselves. There's a lot more types, but these are the main 3 that I want you to focus on. The first is descriptive. So a descriptive name is something that literally describes what your company is going to do. Think an example is the Container Store. It's a store that sells containers. It describes itself in their name. The second type is suggestive. So in this type of name, you're kind of suggesting what your company does, but you're not quite saying it literally. So think something like Twitter. Twitter is not actually like a place with birds, but it suggests this conversation that happens, right? The little tweets, things like that. Suggestive type of name. And then the third one is abstract. So this one's completely made up, right? So think something like Starbucks. I still don't understand the whole mermaid thing. And Starbucks doesn't really say anything about coffee, right? So it's completely abstract, nothing to do with the name, but still highly successful. Okay, so those are the 3 types of names: descriptive, suggestive, or abstract. Within that, you could also have compound words or real words or made up words, right? But those are the 3 main categories. Okay, so with that in mind, now we're gonna move on to the brain dump. For the brain dump part, you need pieces of paper and a writing utensil. Yes, you can do it also digitally, but I strongly suggest by hand. Because there's something about writing with a pen that really gets your juices flowing. I don't want you Googling stuff and things like that at this portion. So I would really suggest pen and paper, pencil, colors, whatever you want for this portion. Okay, so what are we gonna brain dump? You're basically gonna write down anything that comes to mind when it comes to your business. So what kind of feelings do you want to evoke? What do you want your customer to feel? What kind of customers do you want? What colors come to mind when you think of your brand? What services are you going to provide? It could be literal, right? We have descriptive names as well. So it could be just literally, what are you providing? What is the value you're adding? Anything to do with your business. Just write it all down, okay? Once you have all these mishmash of different words, I want you to think of synonyms for those words. Okay, this is really important because sometimes you don't want something like a box, right? The Container Store, they didn't want to be the box store, right? So they had to look up like all these synonyms for different things that hold things inside of them, right? So they probably came up with container from a synonym of a box, right? So think of synonyms for the feelings, for the descriptors, for the colors, for all of that. And then this is where you can actually bring in a computer after you do the initial step. You can bring in your computer and start looking at the thesaurus, right? And looking at different synonyms for your things. Maybe you search certain words on Google and see what comes up. Sometimes animals come up, or maybe some foreign concept that you hadn't thought of that it relates to the feelings that you were evoking. All these things, that's what Google is good for. but only at this step. It also helps to look at books or magazines that you might have laying around, if any of you still have magazines. Flipping through those, seeing the different colors, seeing the different feelings that brands evoke through their advertising for you. Also, ChatGPT obviously is kind of hot right now, right? So it would be kind of like I would be missing something if I don't mention ChatGPT. You can always take words from your brain dump that you did, put them into ChatGPT and say, create a few names for a company that does this, that evokes these feelings. And you take the feelings that you created onto this platform and it will spit out a bunch of different names. Pro tip here for ChatGPT, make sure you give it limits, because sometimes it'll spit out like 100 different names and you'll get completely overwhelmed. So make sure you tell it, give me 10 names. And then also limit the words. So just say, I want names with only 2 words or 1 word. It's all fair, but make sure you limit it. Okay, so now you know the 3 types of names. You have your brain dump, and maybe you've used some other tools to come up with a few different options for your names. Here are 5 tips. 5 tips. I'm gonna go through them really quickly, and hopefully these help you in picking your final name. How exciting. Tip number 1, make it short. Just gonna let you know, 3M, the company that makes all kinds of stuff, I'll leave the logo right here, you'll recognize it, used to be called Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Company. There's no way anyone's gonna say that, so when they started scaling up, they had to shorten the name. So make it short. Tip number 2, try to incorporate some sort of rhythm. Think Dunkin' Donuts, Krispy Kreme, Kit Kat, Coca-Cola. All of those are really fun to say. So make sure the name that you pick is fun to say or satisfying in some way. Tip number 3, try to associate it with something that your customer already knows. Think Amazon. We know the Amazon forest, right? Think Nike. We know that it's a Greek goddess, right? So try to associate it with something that we already know. That'll help people remember it. Which leads to tip number 4. Make it memorable. Enough said. Okay, now we made it to tip number 5, my favorite. Make your name future bound, okay? So instead of something like Laura's Lollipops that limits you to only selling lollipops, make it like Laura's Lovely Sweets. I don't know what Laura is selling, but now it's not bound to just lollipops, right? So think about that. If you don't want to keep doing the same thing you're doing right now, make it future bound, okay? We can expand. Okay, so those are my 5 tips, and I can't leave you without warning you. You have to make sure that your name is available, right? So after going through all of this, still give yourself a few options so that you can search for them to make sure that they're available, that it's legal for you to use them, that all the domains are available, all the handles, all of that stuff. A really good tool to use for this is called Tailor Brands. You can Google it, and then you can just put the name that you're thinking about and it'll spit out whether it's available and all that good stuff. Namevine.com will also check if all the handles are available and if the .com is available as well. If I were you, I would watch this video next. It kind of goes through step by step on how to start a business, just so that you know kind of what you're getting yourself into. But yeah. Give that a watch, and until next time, or until next week, don't forget, Poquito goes a long way. Ciao!